Yes. Hello. I would play my harmonica, but like the noise cancellation thing kind of kills it. It won't work. So hey, good morning. It is I, your host, Poco Kiddo, with yet another amazing episode of Redstone Lapis Lazuli. Hello. Hi. Let me actually get into my world here so you can see what it is I refer to. Wait. Bedrock scene. There we go. Resume game. Hello, hi, welcome. I've done a lot of stuff in my Minecraft world since we last hung out. This is not it. This is just a pretty picture that I needed to have from my show. Just a pretty picture, that's all. The work is rather invisible. Let's go look. Well, no, it's actually not invisible. I mean, it's just different. It's not here. Let me show you where it's at. Yeah, ever since I got this beacon, it's been nice to mine around stuff. But the problem, as always, well, it wasn't really a problem. I was, after I got the beacon, now I wanted to get glow squid. So I had to go travel really far to get glow squid. I tried to make a farm here, and it didn't work. So I made this farm, and I'm only halfway done with it. But essentially, you need to have a body of water below Y level 30 for glow squid to spawn. And then I got a bunch of axolotls. I traveled really far to get these axolotls so that they will help me in killing the glow squid as soon as they appear. Where's my axolotls at? Yeah, right there. I got a few of them. So I'll go watch the video again on how to do this, because you have to have a specific. It has to be a particular way to if I move away, it might work. You have to have a particular way in which you order the water to, see, the glow squid already spawned. It's already working. You can see it's already working. That's exactly what I wanted. So right now they're not going to be killed because I don't have any axolotls in there. But when it's done, it'll be set up so the axolotls will kill anything that comes in the water, and then the drops will float to hoppers. Right now they just float up, and it's not automatic collection. So I will arrange it so it will be indeed automatic collection, and then I will have copious numbers of glow squid ink sacs to beautify my world and to make more apparent those frames which seem to be dark. So, for example, this is a normal frame, right? No light, no nothing. And this is a glow frame. There's luminescence coming from it. That's not from that light or from anything else. That way you can see what's on there. See, no glow ink. Yes, glow ink. So yeah, I like the glow ink, and plus look at these signs. These signs are lit up by glow ink sacs. So, and when I start making colored dye, I can change the color of the text and make it glow. So special tricks here that I'm working on. Yeah, but to get that, I had to travel very far, and I found these this cool vegetation which I brought back with me. New vegetation. So I like variety in my biome. Let's see. Really, if I want to be honest, this consumed almost my entire week. This project of trying to get a glow squid farm going, because I had to travel like hundreds and hundreds of blocks. And when I travel hundreds and hundreds of blocks to go looking for stuff, exploring, it's not the same as being at home and mining. Like, it's easy to stay at home and mine. because like you're safe generally, and everything's familiar. But when I leave my home to go exploring, to look for things I don't have, I have to be 100% committed to that. I don't have any spare like bandwidth in my brain to think about anything else or do anything else. I have to really concentrate on being present so I know where I'm at and can avoid danger and seek what I find. But when I'm at home, just grinding away at mining stuff, it's easy. So I'm trying to find the mine I took to get here. I basically made a huge mine. I can't find it. I don't know. It's around here somewhere. Is that it? No. And I made it so if I never needed to go back, I could get there easily. But, oh well. Is that it? No. Might be. No. That's it right here. This is it. This goes forever off to the biome. But I don't want to go there because it would take me forever and then I would not be at home. So I'd have to pay attention to everything else except my home. So slimes are overwhelming. That's why I have my guardian dude just wandering around to help out. Go, guardian, go! Kill that slime. Yeah! So there, yeah. That's all I've been doing in Minecraft. However, last week I was kind of hungover, so I didn't get to do my show. I mean, I did a little bit, but I didn't get to talk about anything important. I mean, I played a lot of Minecraft, right? All this stuff didn't come from nowhere. I had to build it all, and it took a long time. Yeah, it took a lot of energy too. So I wasn't able to talk about real world stuff. But now I am. So hey, let's go do that. Oh, this is not running. Turn it off. Bump bump. Turn it back on. Bump bump. Bump bump. It's totally not rhythmic, but that's all right. And the Inquisitors die. Yes. As intended. Working as intended. Yeah, I'm sleeping a lot longer now. It's kind of nice. I like the winter. I like being able to sleep like forever. It's great, and wake up only when I kind of really want to get up. Yeah, it's nice. So yeah, let's talk about like some stuff going on. I didn't get to talk about anything last time. I just basically played Minecraft. So the first thing I want to talk about before I get too far up out of that gate and go astray is I'm watching this YouTube channel called Science Click, and it's awesome, dude. I dig this channel, Science Click. In front view. Science Click, English. Oh, you can't see it. Okay, Science Click, right there. Da-da-da-da. And I watched this video, The Origin of Electromagnetic Waves and Why They Behave as They Do. So I'm going to use this video as a basis for a little bit of what I talk about next. All right. What I really like about our world is that if you learn something in one area, many times you can take the principles of that and apply it to different areas of reality, and it works. Or if it doesn't work straight analog, you can like tweak it to make it like make sense. I really dig that about our reality, and it leads me to believe that there's a fractal nature to existence. but that's another thing. Okay, so and what this video tells you about are electromagnetic waves. Sounds crazy, right? Sounds like, ooh, what are you talking about? Electromagnetic waves. Sorry, Star Trek. Yeah, but no. This is like normal stuff. Electromagnetic waves is essentially light. When I say electromagnetic waves, I'm talking about light. But there's many different types of and it's radiation. This electromagnetic radiation are light rays. That's what it means. Electromagnetic radiation is light rays. They're light rays. So, yeah, the rays go in a direction. It goes in a direction. There's a field in which it exists in, and it's got like the distance between the peaks of the waves will tell you its wavelength. And the amplitude, to all sorts of stuff, electromagnetic waves, and they're all different types. Why do I have? Oh, there we go. They're all different types of electromagnetic waves. So the one that we all know and love is visible light, because like we just got to open our eyes and then like, whoa, it's all there, right? Electromagnetic waves, and that's basically wavelengths from a very, very particular spectrum or frequency. But the frequency of electromagnetic waves can be totally different. So if you lower or lengthen the wavelength, that starts turning the light reddish, and then eventually it gets so red that humans can't see it. Just because humans can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Then it moves over to infrared, right? That transmits heat from sun, fires, radiators, right? But it's light. It's light. Then you keep going even lower waves or longer waves, and that turns into microwaves, which are used in cooking, radar, telephone, and other signals. Then you go even longer waves, and now you're going to radio waves, which are used to broadcast radio and television. I mean, we don't really, there's not a whole lot of people that use broadcast anymore, but like, yeah, back in the day, all the time, radio waves. Now you go the opposite direction of the visible light. It gets, bluer and bluer, more and more purple, more and more violet, until it's ultraviolet, and we can't see it. Chickens can see ultraviolet light, but humans cannot. It's absorbed by the skin, used in fluorescent tubes. Then, if you make them even shorter, that turns into X-rays, and you can use to view the insides of bodies and objects. Then you get even tighter, and it's called gamma rays, used in medicine for killing cancer cells. All of this is light. It's just light at different wavelengths. That's it. It's the same thing at different wavelengths. So when we talk about the universal constant of the universe, that is light. Light in a vacuum travels at a maximum of like 300 million miles per second. I don't, or like, here, what's the exact amount? Here, I gotta go up. What's the exact amount? The speed of light is exactly equal to 792,458 meters per second, approximately 300,000 kilometers per second, 186,000 miles per second, 671 million miles per hour. The reason why that's important is because nothing can go faster than the speed of light. Nothing. And that means information cannot travel faster than the speed of light. Light carries information, and information is what we use to like make sense of the world. Remember, our eyeballs are directly connected to our brain. It's the only part of our bodies our brain that's exposed to the outside world, our eyes. We absorb light for information. Okay. Now, light isn't just light. I mean, it is just light, right? I mean, like there's other things you can. I mean, oh man. So you can manipulate light, just like you can manipulate information. I mean, are you with me so far? Light is just a wavelength of energy, just a wavelength of energy. It's in a field of it's in an electric field. And you can do things to affect the way light happens. So the thing about light is, or about things inside a field, an electric field, is that anything they do is going to make waves in the field. Imagine you are in a pond, in a boat, and you're in a rowboat in the middle of a pond, and the pond is very, very still. If you do anything in your little tiny boat, your rowboat, that's going to send ripples throughout the pond. Anything you do is going to make ripples throughout the pond. You can't do anything without making ripples, unless you totally leave the pond. But you can't. So you're stuck in the middle of the pond. Anything you do is going to make ripples, and that's the same is true with all things. Always, all things, all matter, all things exist in an electric field, right? Our bodies, everything exists within an electric field. Therefore, anything we do sends ripples through that electric field. No joke. Anything we do is going to send ripples of throughout the electric field. Okay. No, that's the wrong. Yeah. That's Science Click. That's the one you should be checking out. Okay. Hold on. Now, if you think about it, or understand that the way an atom works, the most fundamental thing that we have is an atom. Atoms are protons and neutrons clumped together in the middle, and then around them are going around electrons. But electrons aren't free to just fly away. They're kind of bound to this thing. So they're just like going around this neutron, or this nucleus, but they're connected, almost like with a rubber band. So they can't go too far away. They can't really. They're stuck. They're attached. It's like a ball attached by a rubber band to a nail. Like it can go around. But it can't get very far. There's a limit to its movement. So the same thing with all atoms. Of everything. Everything's made of atoms, right? Everything has these protons, neutrons, and electrons. The electrons are only able to move so far away from the atom. So, and I took all these from Science Click. So these things here. So you got this atom right here, and these electrons are bouncing crazy inside the atom. It's just doing crazy stuff. But remember, because this atom exists, and everything that exists is in an electric field, and everything you do affects the electric field, everything these guys do, all the bouncing that this guy does, is sending out waves throughout the electric field. Everything they do creates a wave, and then that wave gets sent out. Everything it does makes a wave, and that wave is propagated outwards. So eventually, it's going to hit something, and that something it hits is a charged particle. It's not part of a nucleus or an electron, it's not a part of an atom. It's just hanging out, right? And it's charged. That means it has it's either positive or negative. It has a charge. It's not just hanging out neutral. It's charged. So it's just hanging out charged. All of a sudden, this electron or this atom from way over there is all bouncing around. And while it's bouncing around, it's making waves. And those waves go outward. And eventually, those waves are going to hit this charged particle. Now, this charged particle, because it's charged and it's sitting there, it too will get all the waves from this guy. And what's it going to do? it's going to move the same way this guy does. Imagine a boat and there's a buoy farther away from you and you're in a still pond. If you start jiggling around in your boat and making waves, those waves are going to reach that buoy, and that buoy is going to start bobbing along just like you. So that's the thing about being in an electric field, is that waves propagate outwards and they can affect charged particles. Just like if you're in a boat and you're sitting there bobbing around, you're going to make waves, and it's going to affect the buoy hanging out here, and that buoy is going to start going back and forth. Okay, so remember how I said the whole thing is stuck. The electrons are all stuck to the nucleus by like their charge. So it's like a rubber band. It's not really physically a rubber band there, but it's like there is. It's like magnets. You know how the magnet wants to pull there? There's that same force, magnetic force, nuclear force, holding the electron. Well, not nuclear force, but electron force, magnetic force. I don't know. Holding the electron within a certain distance, like a rubber band. It can't go very far. But again, you can manipulate this a certain way. So if you like jiggle it a certain way, you can get the electrons to move in a predictable pattern, in a predictable direction. So instead of being in the boat bobbing back and forth like that, instead of doing that, you start like, and you make like a steady pattern. If you make a steady pattern, you start making steady waves. If you start making steady waves, all the other charged particles are going to follow your steady wave. So when you're bobbing around, there's only three different ways. There's only three ways that you can set up your thing here. If you arrange the electrons to move in a pattern, there's only three patterns it can fit. It can either be a perfect circle where all the electrons are just going in a circle. It could be a straight line where all the electrons are going boom, 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 or it would be an ellipse where the electrons are making an oval. That's it. There's only three polarizations. So, for example, radio waves, right? The radio antenna is a big up and down antenna, and what that does is it creates its particles are charged along this thing to go up and down. That way, all the electric field that is generated by this power, or by this radio tower, is all going to have the same up and down motion. And that's why other antennas who are tuned to that particular up and down motion will catch it. It's pretty neat, right? It's pretty neat. I like how the motion of something solid far away, well, solid, can affect things like not even connected, because they are connected by the electric field. Okay, so what this does is that you can polarize light. If you do this to light, you're polarizing it. You're giving it a certain wavelength. And if you can give, and so with a 3D movie, what a 3D movie does is it sends two different pictures at the same time to your eyeball, but the light is polarized, so that, and you're wearing glasses, and the glasses that you wear are polarized in different directions. So one direction is polarized for up and down, and the other lens is polarized for left and right. That way you're able to see two different pictures in each eyeball and simulate 3 dimensions. It's pretty cool. But that's what polarization does, is you're able to create materials that block certain polarizations while allowing other polarized light to go through. Remember, light is information. Light carries information. Also, because light is a wavelength, it acts the same way as as water waves, in that they can amplify or cancel each other, interfere with each other. So if one wave comes along and they're up this high, and the other wave comes along and they're down low this high, if they both meet, they're going to cancel each other and it'll be flat. There'll be nothing there. It won't propagate very far. All the energy will be dissipated and destroyed. Conversely, if you have one wave that's super high and another wave that's super high and they meet, their energy adds and it doubles. And it's going to propagate even farther. By doing nothing, just doing their thing and meeting another wave. That's it. You've doubled your energy, not by doing anything different, just by meeting another wave like you. All right. Another property of light is that it can be diffused. Like, so if you have a transparent material, it's going to interact with the light in a certain way, and it's going to stop its, even if it's like got a particular direction, it's going to scatter it and diffuse it, so that even if so it won't be as strong or whatever. Yeah. All right. Oops, that's not supposed to be there. You go up one here. Paste. Didn't you paste? No. So copy or cut, paste. Yes. Okay. All right. So the reason, I gave you that terrible explanation of polarized light. I should probably do it more in Minecraft and less speaking. And let me get a boat. Except Minecraft has no waves. There's like no water physics in Minecraft. So it's not really going to work. But I can try a boat. All right. So we have this particle chilling. And it's chilling in this electric field. The water is the electric field all around all of us at all times. The electric field. There's always an electric field around you. And every movement I make in the boat, every time I make a movement in the boat, it's going to send ripples. It's going to send ripples outward. And those ripples are going to affect everything around it. Like that lily pad is going to be affected by the ripples I make with my boat. It has no choice. It has to do it. Now, if I make my boat go in a circle, it'll make particular waves, and then all these other things in the pond will start bobbing to the same frequency as my rhythmic boat. In that way, the same way that the boat affects the other floating things in the pond, electromagnetic waves can affect other charged particles in the electric field. And in the electric field, there's always charged particles hanging out. I don't know how, but now but here's the thing. I can make a filter. I need to sleep because it's getting too dark. I can make a filter. Wait, let me go to sleep first and I will continue. I don't know how anyone listens to this. It's got to be hard to listen to. But if you interact, it would be a lot easier. Okay. So, I'm just trying to explain the phenomenon of waves, because I think that's important for you to understand what's coming up. Okay, so you have something out there. You have your thing out there in the electric field. And you want it to have a particular polarization. Now remember, there's only three ways. There's like three directions you can polarize in. Like that. So if I configure my boat thing to bob in a certain particular pattern, it will make particular waves and it will send them out throughout the field. However, imagine I had like a dam. I made a dam. I don't have any blocks. Let me go get blocks. Imagine I made a dam and that dam stopped. It basically blocked the propagation of the waves. Oh, dude, where did I go? That way. It's the same way that the polarized light glasses can stop the propagation of certain polarized light through a lens, so you don't see it. Even if it's there, the light can't get to your eyeball, so you never get that information. Dirt blocks. Dirt blocks. Like, I'm telling you this because this is real world stuff. It's not imaginary. It's not pretend. It's actual physical reality, part of the world in which everyone lives. So if you it's really important that you understand this, because this can be used in other aspects of reality. So okay, you have your electron, or your atom out here, and it's polarized. You've made it go in a certain direction so that all the waves that it produces, because it will produce waves because it exists in an electrical field, it can't help but produce waves. Just like anything we do as individuals is going to have an impact. We can't help but make an impact. Anything we do or do not do is going to have an impact on our electrical field, our reality around us. Okay, so we got this thing bobbing in a particular pattern. So it makes particular waves. It makes and all the other things floating in the pond are also going to bob in that same pattern. However, you can create a filter, a device that blocks out certain kind of waves, so that even if a wave comes, it'll be blocked and it won't come through to this side. So everyone here will be chill, and over here it'll be like blah 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 boom, blah 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 boom, blah boom. But over here, I don't know anything. What are they doing over there? That's weird. We're just calm here. Yeah. You can do that with light. That's how 3D movies work. Is that it blocks light from one direction, and the other lens blocks light from the other direction. And then by having two different pictures, your brain is tricked into thinking there's 3D. So what does that mean? Polarization. The light can be polarized. What is light? Carriers of information. Carriers of information can be polarized. And you can filter out polarizations. So yes, okay. Radiation penetration. Okay, radiation penetration. Alpha, I don't know why I have this on here, but you'll see that these rays have greater energy. X-rays, gamma rays have greater energy, so they penetrate more things. Whereas infrared tends to get absorbed and transfer its energy into the body instead of penetrating it. Okay. All right. There. A quick primer on light as a vehicle through which information is carried through an electrical field, and the method of how that information can be polarized to da-da-da. All right, now we're gonna go. So I have this. I don't have a real big narrative because I like. Well, all right, here. So yeah. So let's start with the first guy. Elno Husk. Here, there's a Russian oligarch. So, who made a bunch of crazy predictions about the downfall of the West, and Elon Musk amplified it. So here was a wave, right? And it has polarized information. And I told you, if two waves of the same frequency meet each other, they amplify each other. So what's happening is this Russian oligarch is putting out Russian propaganda. And Elon Musk met this wave and amplified it. He added to it. That means he's of the same polarization as the Russian oligarch. What did the Russian oligarch say? He said some bullshit about France and Fourth Reich. He said some bullshit about Europe being divided, about the EU breaking. He's all about breaking down the blocks, the democratic blocks, because that's what Russia wants, right? Russia can't beat democratic blocks. One-on-one, maybe Russia can beat a country, but when those democratic countries band together, Russia can't do anything, as you see right now with their failed invasion of Ukraine. So the number one goal of Russia is to break up all the democratic blocs. They were very, very successful. The Russians were very successful in getting Britain to kill themselves by going through Brexit. Britain pretty much ended their country. I didn't say they ended their country, but severely weakened their country because Russia exploited the xenophobia and racism inside of England and Britain to break them apart away from the EU. That weakened both the EU and Britain, and in relative terms, it strengthened Russia. So that's the primary goal that the Russians want. And what does Elon Musk do? He amplifies it. Look at, see, he's amplifying it. But 4 hours later, after everyone called him out on it, 4 hours later, he's like, oh, my ass is hanging out. Everyone sees my ass. I better cover it up. So here, he's trying to cover up his what he said. 4 hours later, dude. Here, at 1:51 p.m., 2 o'clock p.m., he agrees with the Russian oligarch. But after people tell him, dude, you look like an asshole. Everyone hates you now. Then he said, 4 hours later, he said, never mind, that's a bad idea. Dude, what you're doing is agreeing with a book called The Foundations of Geopolitics, written in 1997. Because what does this do? This says the same thing as what the Russian oligarch said. It wanted the EU to fall apart. It wants there to be a civil war in the United States. It wants to break off the UK from the EU, which it did. You know, I don't think it's not good. Right? It's bad. It's bad that they did that the UK broke off from the EU. That was the dumbest thing ever. They got tricked by the Russians. Well, and they have their own internal racism that they haven't dealt with. Just like the United States has its own internal racism it hasn't dealt with. So Elon Musk is obviously on the side of the Russians, and he's engaged in information warfare. Information warfare. I told you all about this. Active measures. I told you all about this already. Do I need to play the clip again? Come on, you know this. Russia wants to break the spirit of the West by spreading propaganda and lies because it cannot abide by the truth. Russia cannot abide by the truth. It destroys everything that Russia stands for. Well, Putin. I don't know about the Russian people. Like, I don't know. But certainly the leaders. Everything. It stands. The truth. The truth cannot. The truth will destroy the Russian leaders. So the Russian leaders have to do everything they can in order to hide truth. They can't stand it. So they engage in information warfare to convince people of the West that there is no such thing as truth, or if there is, you can never know it. And that way, they can say, well, then everybody is the same as everybody else. Everything's the same as everything else. There is no truth. Anything is possible. And in that realm, that's when they start doing their evil fascist stuff. But Elno Husk is part of that. That's the whole reason why he bought Twitter, was to engage in information warfare on behalf of Russian oligarchs, because he knows that in a multiracial democracy, billionaires like him cannot thrive. So by his class, he must necessarily be against the United States, just based on his social class as a billionaire. Yeah, Elno Husk is totally confused about what's going on, because he's removed from the material conditions of reality. He is so rich that he has removed himself from the material conditions of reality. And when you've detached yourself from material conditions, then your brain can come up with all sorts of crazy ass things that you believe in, because you have no material conditions to tell you that you're wrong. So Elon Husk, or Elno Husk, put this out thinking in a way to say that. So what it says? It says, what if I told you the only way to escape the matrix is to unlearn everything that you have been taught and rebuild your entire belief system based on critical thought and analysis? That's true, but Elno Husk believes he is Neo. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. If you want to know who Elno Husk is, he's the Merovingian. Elno Husk is the. What if I told you Elon Musk is the Merovingian? That's what's up. Who are the Merovingians? Historically, the Merovingians were the ruling dynasty of the Franks from the 5th through 8th centuries. The Franks ruled much of what is modern France and what is now Germany and the Low Countries. Merovingian Francia was one of the most powerful successor states of the Roman Empire, and it is from this state that the modern nation of France ultimately descends. The Merovingian kings were noted by their exceptionally long hair, especially in contrast to the short-haired Romans. Didn't Elno Husk get a bunch of hair plugs? I'm not saying baldness is a bad thing, dude. Like, baldness is just a trait. Like, and I don't mean to make bald people feel bad. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to, right? I know that for a lot of people, hair loss is a bad thing, and it sucks for them. And I've made light of it in the past, and I apologize because I didn't realize it hurt people's feelings so much. So I apologize. But I'm not trying to. But I think it's interesting to note that Elno Husk has hair loss that he tried to reverse with hair plugs, and that he is connected to the Merovingians, who are all about long hair, but he's got none. So I don't know. The Merovingian dynasty was characterized by continuous instability, in large part due to its practice of partial inheritance, wherein upon the death of the king, all the male offspring received a portion of the kingdom to rule independently. This practice resulted in frequent civil wars, as each heir attempted to subordinate or conquer the others and sapped Merovingian power, as the nobility took advantage of the civil wars to aggrandize themselves. By the dynasty's end, the Merovingian king was little more than a figurehead. Pepin the Short ended the reign of the Merovingians by cutting off the king and his son's hair. They lived out their days in a monastery. That is Elon Husk. Elon Husk thinks he's smart, thinks he's the guy who knows what's going on, but he's really a puppet of Russian oligarchs used to support a system of fascism and white supremacy and patriarchy. But he can't know this because he's a billionaire, completely removed from the material reality of his world. Completely removed from it. There's no feedback mechanism to affect his consciousness, so he will never accept it. He is perfect in his subjectivity because he will never feel the material conditions, the consequences of his actions. Even if he loses Tesla and SpaceX, he's like got millions and millions of dollars. He'll never be broke, and he's famous, so he'll never ever know what it's like to be broke and homeless and not have anyone care about you and not have anyone know who you are. He'll never know that. So he can never ever truly understand what it's like to be human. Check him out in an interview in 2014. Was this 2014? Yeah, interview 2014. Whoa, 7/28/2014. Elon Musk did an interview with Forbes, and what am I looking at? So this is an interview in Forbes, and what he said is this right here. What this lets you know is that Elon Musk grew up in total wealth in apartheid South Africa. Total wealth. His family owned an emerald mine. His family owned an emerald mine. I can't believe it. He's sitting here bragging about how he showed up with a bunch of contraband and AK-47s in like a war-torn place with a bad passport. Like, he's bragging about how he went to his emerald mine like this in 2014. So what we know is that Elon Musk is brainwashed. He says, I'm not brainwashed, but he is brainwashed. He believes he's this guy. And he's looking at, I guess, us, right? And he's looking at us, and he sees all these labels. He sees trans, he sees gay, he sees Islam, he sees, I don't know what Google and CNN are about. He sees what socialism, he sees Black Lives Matter, he sees feminism, he sees Taoism. I don't know what that symbol is. I don't know what why would you put all these companies on there? Black Lives Matter, Planned Parenthood, which is great for female autonomy, and wearing a mask, which shows that you care about your community. All of this is like not brainwashing, it's being a good human being. I don't know, and he believes what these syringes are supposed to represent vaccines. Dude, vaccines saved everyone's lives. Are you dumb? Who's the brainwashed one here? He's looking at all these good things and he's saying those are bad things. What's wrong with Elon Musk? He's brainwashed. He's been polarized. He couldn't help it, right? He sat in the same electrical field as Russian oligarchs, and Russian oligarchs are polarized to create certain wavelengths. And Elon Musk, being a charged particle, couldn't help but pick up those same wavelengths and become polarized in the same direction as Russian oligarchs. He can't help it. He's detached from any material conditions. Therefore, it's easy to manipulate him. Elon Musk personally suspended Chad Loder, who was an anti-fascist researcher stopping a bunch of Nazis from harming people. One of those Nazis, Andy Ngo, asked Elon Musk to suspend Chad Loder because Chad Loder exposed Andy Ngo as a Nazi. And what did Elon Musk do? He obliged the Nazi and banned Chad Loder because Elon Musk is engaged in information warfare against the United States. This is the foundation of geopolitics 3. This is everything that oligarchs said was from that book. Everything that the United Kingdom should be cut off from Europe. I mean, they got exactly what they wanted with Brexit. They used the Russian propaganda to talk to the xenophobic British people, not all the British people, but just the xenophobic ones. And the xenophobic British people were the majority. And they chose to go along with the Russian plan to separate England from the rest of Europe. Because they thought they could close their borders from brown people if they separated themselves from the EU. And now they're being sold for scraps. The Tory government is selling the whole country for scraps. Exactly the way that the oligarchs wanted, right? Like, how do you control the people if they have healthcare? It's a lot harder. That's why they destroyed the national healthcare system of England, and sold it off for scraps to the highest bidder. What else do we got going here? So much. Remember how I was telling you that Greg Abbott was a follower of the white idol? So what Greg Abbott does is he takes taxpayer money, and then he looks for people who are requesting asylum, brown people who are requesting asylum. And with that taxpayer money, that limited taxpayer money that he takes from all the people who are working in Texas, he's like, man, I have to be real careful with how I use this. So he takes this very precious taxpayer money, and he says, oh, hi, person seeking asylum, I'm going to put you on a plane using taxpayer money. It won't help you. It won't help the taxpayer. It'll make my friends rich. Isn't that great? That's Greg Abbott, because doing that helps the white idol, his white idol. He worships the white idol. And putting migrants on planes, asylum seekers on planes, and sending them other places with taxpayer money, wasting it, is a perfect example of the white supremacy mind frame that he represents. And here he is with Joe Biggs, leader of the Proud Boys, who is indicted for seditious conspiracy. So this guy wants to overthrow the United States. And this guy is his ally, helping him to overthrow the United States. That means everyone who voted for Greg Abbott also wants to help overthrow the United States. They're all fascists. Because white supremacy, at its root, is a fascist ideology. So this bit here is written from Dr. Professor. She's a doctor because she has a PhD in history. So she's Dr. Heather Richardson. Doctor with a PhD in history, Heather Richardson, wrote this thing on Facebook. It said, to explain Title 42. Title 42 is a law that permits the government to keep contagious diseases out of the country. And Trump put it into place in March 2020 at the start of the coronavirus pandemic, in part because it enabled him to stop considering migrants for asylum, as is required by U.S. and international law. Title 42 had only been used once before in 1929 to keep ships from China and the Philippines, where there was a meningitis outbreak, from coming into U.S. ports. Extremist Republicans want to keep it as a way to stop immigration to this country, although technically it is an emergency rule that, when revoked, will simply restore the law in place before it went into effect. The Biden administration has called for Congress to pass new legislation to address what Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas has called a fundamentally broken system, outdated at every level. In the absence of congressional action to reform the immigration and asylum systems, a significant increase in migrant encounters will strain our system even further, Mayorkas said in anticipation of the end of Title 42. Addressing this change will take time and additional resources, and we need to keep the partnership of Congress, state and local officials, NGOs, and communities to do so. Yes, dude, our immigration and asylum laws are really outdated. We haven't updated them in a long time. Why? Because there's a white supremacist faction in the Republican Party that doesn't want any kind of immigration in the United States that isn't white, that isn't European. That's the whole point. So since they don't want to update our immigration laws, they don't get upgraded. We can't upgrade them because half our government is white supremacist. Title 42 did not end, by the way. A Trump judge kept it in place because he's racist, right? It's racist. That the whole point is racism. Title 42 is being used for racist reasons to keep migrants out of brown migrants out of or asylum seekers out of the United States. It's not to protect the United States from diseases. If it were, why don't you put it all over the United States? No, you only put it at the southern border. Yeah, that's because you're racist. So something that came out recently is that there's a very famous tweet person called Libs of TikTok, and this person hid behind anonymity. She was anonymous for a long time, and through Twitter she said, "Oh, all I'm doing is targeting trans people for violence. That's all I'm doing." So that's what she did. She used her platform to target trans people for violence, and it culminated in bomb threats sent to Boston's Children's Hospital. because she's a terrorist. She's a Nazi, right? This person's a Nazi. Once she revealed who she was, though, because she hid behind anonymity for like years or for a long time. But finally, she's like, I'm gonna come out triumphantly to everyone, so everyone could see how bad of a person I am. And she came out on Tucker Carlson to show everyone, hey, everyone, here I am. I'm the person who's behind the account that targets trans people for violence. Hi, hello. After she revealed herself in person who she is, we find out she was at the insurrection on January 6th. She's an insurrectionist. She wants to overthrow the United States. She's literally a Nazi. Here, you can see it for yourself. Go. There she is at the Capitol on January 6th trying to overthrow the government of the United States in order to install fascism. She's a fucking Nazi. And we know she's a Nazi because she uses her platform to call for violence on marginalized people. Just like a Nazi does. That's her right there.
Get in the building! Get in the building! Me and my boy.
Yep. She was there to overthrow the government of the United States. And she acts like a Nazi. Everything she does is a Nazi. And she's supported by Nazis. It's so easy to see Nazis. It's so easy. So, another thing that was going on is that McCarthy, after 15 votes, he finally got speakership of the House. And then he gave a speech where he promised to repeal some IRS funding and to stop woke indoctrination in our schools. Now, that's two things. Let me get to the woke indoctrination. Well, what does he mean, woke? What does he mean, woke? A lawyer for Ron DeSantis defined woke as the understanding, the awareness that there are systemic injustices in American society and the need to address them. So to re-say this is that McCarthy then promises to stop Americans from being aware of the systemic injustices in the United States. That's his goal. Not to solve the systemic injustices in the United States. He doesn't want to fix the systemic injustices in the United States. No, he wants to stop people from being aware of them. Why? Because the systemic injustices in the United States are skewed toward white supremacy. We have systemic injustices in the United States skewed toward white supremacists, to white supremacy. And it hurts the vast majority of Americans. Well, it hurts all Americans. White supremacy hurts all Americans. Even if you're white, it hurts you. But Kevin McCarthy vows to make sure that no one's going to know about these systemic injustices because he's a white supremacist, and those systemic injustices are there on purpose. It's not an accident. It's on purpose that they're there, and he wants to make sure that people aren't aware of them. Just so you know, right? He's a Nazi. He's a Nazi. And so are the people who are opposed to being woke. They're all Nazis. They don't want people to be aware of the systemic injustices in the United States. It's not a question of is there systemic injustices. Of course there's systemic injustices. All you have to do is look at the evidence. Oh, but if you don't believe in truth, and Nazis don't believe in truth. They only believe in power. I was talking to a guy on New Year's Eve at a bar, and we're talking about how Zelensky was extorted by Donald Trump on behalf of Vladimir Putin. And the guy who was a supporter of Donald Trump said, oh, that's not wrong. That's not illegal. That's okay to extort people. And it's okay for him because for him, power was the number one thing. Not truth, not justice, not love, not freedom, power. Power is the number one thing for Republicans. Power. That makes them Nazis. They're all Nazis. All of them are Nazis. If you vote for a Republican, you're a Nazi. Why? Because remember, that leader, that person you voted for, is dancing in a particular pattern, and it's making particular shapes of waves through the electromagnetic field. And you, voter, as a charged particle, will dance in the same way as that guy does. And if that guy's a Nazi, that makes you a Nazi. And if you're connected, you're a Nazi. So the Republicans dance to make society shaped like this. And I'm looking for a group that dances to make society shape like this, like a circle. Republicans dance in a way to shape society that places white man on top and all other life below white man. I'm looking for a group, and that makes a pyramid. I'm looking for a group that creates society in a circle where everyone is equal to everyone else, and we're all living here together. Tom Cotton said, so you can tell that Republicans only care about power and not truth because they will shapeshift. They will totally change direction at the drop of a hat. It means nothing. They have and the way you do that is by having no integrity. Tom Cotton has absolutely zero integrity. He's a blob of snot. He'll take any shape that's required in order to obtain power. So in this instance, in December or in October of 2021, Tom Cotton said Joe Biden said he's too busy to visit the border. So he's like, oh, he's scolding Joe Biden for not visiting the border in 2021. So what happens? Joe Biden says, okay, I'm going to go to the border. Now, when Joe Biden says, okay, Tom Cotton, because you want me to go to the border, I'm going to go to the border. But what does Tom Cotton say? Well, visiting the border is meaningless. Did you see that? He totally changed shape because he's made a snot. He's got no integrity because he's a Nazi. Nazis don't have integrity. They will take any shape necessary to obtain power. That's what he just did. Tom Cotton doesn't care because he's a Nazi. So remember, Elon Musk did not buy Twitter by himself. He did not buy it by himself. He had partners. Those partners were in Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the group that paid Jared Kushner $2 billion for American secrets so they can murder dissidents. This is from Jacob Silverman on Twitter. Okay. It is very disturbing that any entity that invested $250 million in Twitter gets confidential company information when those investors are Middle Eastern dictatorships with a history of using Twitter as a hunting ground for dissidents to arrest and torture. Because what do they get? What does Saudi Arabia get as part of the deal? From Washington Post. As part of the deal, anyone who invested $250 million or more gets special access to confidential company information. But giving that privilege to foreign investors is raising flags with Biden and U.S. officials. Of particular interest is whether that includes access to personal data about Twitter's users, since several of the entities are entwined with governments that have a history of cracking down on dissidents on Twitter and other online platforms. I don't have it here, but recently Twitter, there was a breach of 250 million Twitter passwords and profiles on a anonymous hacking board or something. It was a hacking board that they're selling that information. So this has already happened. The worst case scenario has already happened. The files of Twitter have been hacked and put on the black market for governments to buy and then hunt down their dissidents to kill them. Just like Jamal Khashoggi. Whiteness and gun control. I don't know where I got this from, but I'm going to read it. The ways in which the ideology of white supremacy permeates throughout the American political and social culture is overwhelming, yet simultaneously muted. The most pertinent example of recent significance is that of gun rights movement. Supporters of freer gun ownership oftentimes hold the belief that guns are associated with power, and power is associated with whiteness. Whiteness, in all aspects of life, comes with the sense of power and privilege, especially in terms of social interactions and deeply impactful political issues. The lack of action taken on gun control in America is inherently about race as well, and, even more importantly, it is about the preservation of white supremacy. Over time, gun ownership has become less about self-defense and the spirit of America, and more about feeling of identity, specifically white identity. The brandishing of a gun has turned into a symbol of being dominant and individualistic and represents the impact of white supremacy on gun culture. This, in turn, has created a culture in which guns preserve the power of white supremacists in society, allowing them to seemingly flourish and generate a continued wave of violence. Which is true. That's why mass shootings are a regular occurrence in the United States and no other country. Unless they're in a state of war. Because the United States is the only country without comprehensive gun control, and the reason why we don't have comprehensive gun control laws is because we have a history of white supremacy that does not want to give up its power. White supremacists don't want gun control laws. Historically, because guns were used to subjugate everyone else in America that wasn't white. Who are the people who had guns? White people. Even today, who are the people who have guns? White people. Sure, you have your minorities with guns and stuff, but they're not de facto legally allowed to have it. On paper, they're allowed to have it, but if they try to actually do it, the state will stop them. Only white people are allowed to have guns, de facto, in the United States. So another thing that went on. Thanks, Russian Media Monitor. I think Julia Andrews, I think, is the one who runs this, and she's awesome. They noticed they put some Russian thing, Z initials, to stand for like Happy New Year or something. But what was interesting is that these letters sound like the Russian word for evil, Zulo. I'm like, that's weird. What other word sounds like Zulo? Sounds like evil. Zul from Ghostbusters. Evil, the Russian word for evil. That's awesome. I didn't know that this guy was based on the Russian word for evil. Zul. Oh, okay. Which is also like the Russian word for evil, Zul, which they use for Happy New Year in Russia. Because Russian Empire is evil. That's why they're invading Ukraine. Because the Russian Empire is evil. They're a bunch of fucking Nazis and fascists. In fact, Republicans are allied with Russia. Check this out. Details are still emerging, but the strange venture launched by Rudy Giuliani and 2 Soviet immigrants to funnel illegal campaign donations to Republican political and right-wing super PACs has taken a strange, albeit predictable turn. Andrei Muraviev, a Russian marijuana investor, has now been linked to the efforts of the shockingly named fraud guarantee operation that broke Federal Election Commission laws by injecting illegal funds into the campaigns of GOP figures like Ron DeSantis. What has been made abundantly clear, in case it wasn't already, is that the Republican Party is absolutely swimming in Russian blood money and influence. Russian oligarchs funnel money into Republican campaigns in order to defeat Democrats. And then those Republican officials are now indebted to Russian mafia. That's why the Russians and the Republicans are on the same team. Because Republicans take Russian money. They're the same team. Here, if you weren't sure that the Republicans were white supremacists, all major and ethnic voter groups lean Democrat, except whites. I mean, yeah, you look here, and it looks very little difference, but you have to remember, white people are the vast majority of people in the United States. They're the huge group. So this little difference is amplified by millions and millions and millions and millions of people until it controls 1/3 of the states of the United States. Everybody else understands that the GOP is a party of white supremacy, except even the white people understand that the GOP is a party of white supremacy. That's why the majority of white people are in the white supremacy party, because they implicitly understand that the Republican Party is a party of white supremacy. And here, of the 222 Republicans currently in the House GOP caucus, 119 had, on January 6, 2021, after after the Trump-induced riot. So this is after Trump already sent his mob to assassinate the line of succession. After this already happened, 119 affirmed his thing. They affirmed Donald Trump's attempt to overthrow the election by voting to block certification. That means the majority of Republicans in the House are insurrectionists. They tried to overthrow the government on 2021. They used their vote to invalidate my vote and your vote. They used their vote to invalidate my vote and your vote to overthrow the government, to overthrow democracy, and to say that only their opinion matters. Not my opinion, not your opinion, not the opinion of all the other Americans. Only the white supremacist opinion matters. Right? That's why they're Nazis. And they have a majority in Congress right now, in the House. They control, they're the majority of Republicans in the House. And if you don't believe me, look what happened. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene, insurrectionist, with the phone. And she's giving that phone to another congressperson. And who's on that phone? Donald Trump. That tells you Donald Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. Because with the help of Donald Trump, Kevin McCarthy got elected speaker. Republicans are tied to Donald Trump, and Republicans are tied to Vladimir Putin. Republicans are the party of white supremacy. I mean, just understand it, right? Just understand that and if you belong to the Republican Party, you're a white supremacist. Just understand it, accept it, because that's the way it is. Now, that's a problem, though, right? That's a problem for white supremacists, because unlike previous generations, millennials grew up with the internet. The internet is a macro level neural network. It's a neurological system. We are able to transmit information at the speed of light across the entire United States and the world, whereas before that was not possible. We had gatekeepers who would block the information they didn't like and let through the information they did like. So we only got a small picture of what's going on. So you can look at it sort of like get rid of that one. Oh, wrong one. Electromagnetic radiation. Before, they would only let us see a tiny, tiny part. The gatekeepers, like me, I'm Gen X, right? I'm at the very, very end of Gen X, and I grew up like half my childhood was with the internet, and the other half, the first half, was no internet. So I have a really good view of like how the internet really changed society. But before, we could only get a tiny, tiny portion of the information, because our sources of information were the library, newspapers, or television. That's it. We got a little information from school, of course, right? But not the whole picture. With the internet, it allows you to see a much bigger cross-section of the information out there. So that means if the information was being gate-kept, and that kept people from being aware of the systemic racial injustices in the United States, the internet broke that barrier. The internet allowed people to go around the gatekeepers and see for themselves and to become aware of the systemic racial injustices in the United States that Republicans don't want people to see. So what does that mean? How does that play out? Conservatives have a problem. In both the US and UK, it's not that millennials aren't voting conservative because they're young. Every previous generation grew more conservative with age, but millennials are not playing ball. Check this out. Every other generation before millennials became more conservative as they got older. So what that means is that these individuals were placed in an electric field, and they kept they kept getting bombarded non-stop from the media that came from particular gatekeepers. So it was polarized information, and over time, no matter what, all these other previous generations had no choice but to become polarized to the information that they were receiving. But then the internet happened. And no longer could the traditional gatekeepers control the flow of information. What that meant was the new generation, millennials, were able to get a wider view of what was actually happening. And they were not polarized into white supremacy the way previous generations were. And that you can see the effect of the lack of polarization in that they're very aware of the systemic injustices in the United States in a way that these previous generations are not. They're not aware of these because they have been polarized into white supremacy. But the internet has created other avenues of information, and that allowed the millennials to break free of the cycle of the polarization. That's why they don't vote for white supremacy parties. So, and that's why white supremacists have to rely on increasingly extremist actions in order to maintain power. I mean, they attempted to overthrow, with violence, the United States government. And white supremacists won't accept that was a coup. They won't accept it. It was just a protest, bro. Fucking Nazis. So McCarthy, the other part of what McCarthy wants to do, right? We know that McCarthy and the Republicans want to stop Americans from becoming aware of the systemic injustice in the United States. We already know that. But the other thing he wants to do is to defund the IRS. Why does the Republicans want to defund the IRS? What's up with that? Well, if we look at the tax code in the 1950s with President Eisenhower, the richest people had a tax rate of 70% in the and if you had, so basically it was a progressive tax. The less money you had, the less in taxes you paid. And if you had a lot of money, you paid a lot of taxes. But the white supremacy party of the Republicans in today had a different idea. Their idea, the Republican Party or the white supremacists, the idea for them is that if you have, the more money you have, the less in taxes you should pay. So, and the less money you have, the more in taxes you should pay. That's why people with no money pay less taxes than billionaires. If you have no money, if you're broke, if you're really, really poor, you're going to pay less taxes than billionaire. If you're barely scraping by, if you're barely surviving, you pay more taxes than billionaires, for Republicans. Because Republicans believe poor people are the worst people in America. Republicans really believe poor people are the absolute shit of America. That's why they make poor people pay the most in taxes. So this is important. Oh shit! Fuck! I have to wait for it to search again. This is important because rich people have a very big incentive not to pay taxes. They don't want to pay taxes because they have money. So they would do everything they can not to pay taxes. Who's the entity to which they pay taxes? The IRS. So the CBO report in 2020 find out that the rich people are the biggest tax cheats. CBO found that the estimated amount of taxes owed but ultimately unpaid was $381 billion on average annually from 2011 to 2013. The tax gap is almost certainly substantially higher, given that the total revenue collected has gone up by more than a third since that time. A recent academic study found that roughly 70% of the gap is explained by the underpayment of the top 1%. The top 1%, the amount of taxes not paid, 70% of that goes to the top 1%. The top 1% just aren't paying their taxes. And the IRS is the is the organ that enforces tax code. So if the Republicans want to defund the IRS, that means they want the IRS to stop getting the majority of money from the richest people, because white supremacists inherently serve oligarchy. So we can look in this chart. If you were really poor, the amount of unpaid taxes was very little. Because generally, all these people here, generally, they all work for someone else. So they get paid payroll. So their taxes are, they get paid a wage. So their taxes are automatically deducted. So they don't have a chance to cheat Uncle Sam, because their taxes are automatically taken out. It's not until you get to the super wealthy, the super wealthy, where they don't get paid in wages, they get paid from dividends from their businesses. So it's not automatically deducted. So they're able to cheat our government out of a lot of money and shift the tax burden off of the rich and onto the poor people. The poorest people shoulder the biggest burden to pay for taxes, according by design of the Republicans, of the white supremacists. White supremacists have no concept of justice, only power. So we know that they're white supremacists. Here's George Santos putting up the white supremacist sign. Now, there are some people that saying, "Oh, that's not a white supremacist sign. That's just whatever." No, dude, that's a white supremacist sign. Context matters. It matters where you do it. He's doing this on the floor as he's voting for Kevin McCarthy, as he's aware Donald Trump is watching him. Like, oh, right here, that's on this one. Let me pull it up real quick. So we know that's a white supremacist sign. I know this because these guys are white supremacists and they're doing the same thing. So these guys are part of a white supremacist gang in Utah called the American Guard. You can see their symbol is cleavers because they're all about violence, right? White supremacy is predicated upon violence. This guy, Mark Kwan, they're all doing the white supremacist sign, right? That's because they're white supremacists. White supremacists, when they do this, it means white supremacy. Incidentally, Mark Kwan also, like the Pelosi attacker, Mark Kwan also used a hammer to attack someone. November of 2020, he came from Utah in his bus to bring this hammer to attack people who live in Portland, just like how Paul Pelosi was attacked by the same kind of Nazi. Right? And this guy here tried to hit someone in the head, just like Paul Pelosi got hit in the head by the Nazi. But in Portland, what happened was the DA protected this Nazi and charged this guy here with the hammer. They charged him with the hammer. That's how you know in the United States there are systemic injustices, and Nazis don't want you to know about it because these systemic injustices protect Nazis and attack locals. All right, where are we at? Just so you know, right? Don't forget. Don't forget. These are Nazis. We're dealing with people who want to overthrow the government and take away your vote and my vote, the vote that our ancestors fought and died for. They're Nazis. Remember them. And remember, as you go throughout your daily life, everything you do is going to have an effect on the environment around you. And there are people out there who are going to respond to the way you act. So it's important that you be conscious of your actions and your words. Okay, America, thank you for listening to me. I mean, we're moving to a strange time again. I don't think anything good is going to come out of the House because a bunch of insurrectionists are there. The Department of Justice was too slow in indicting the leaders of the coup. So now the coup has metastasized, and now they're inside government. Just like how after the Civil War, the Confederates were let back into government by Andrew Johnson. It's the same thing. We're repeating the pattern just like last time. So it's not looking good. Like, if the Department of Justice wants to indict people and indict Donald Trump, get the ball rolling, that would be great, because then they couldn't use Donald Trump as a polarizer. He couldn't continue to influence the electrical field and manipulate other weak people into doing what he wants them to do. But the Department of Justice has to act, and I believe the Department of Justice has a lot of white supremacists inside of it. So we're in a strange time, but I think we can do it because look at this. Did you not see the millennials? They're not being polarized into white supremacy the way that previous generations were. That's because of the internet. That's because of the free flow of information. So keep doing what we're doing, right? Keep spreading the consciousness. Keep spreading that information to influence your fellow human being and to spread truth and justice and love, because Nazis are exactly the opposite of us. So they're trying to cancel your wave. Don't let your wave get canceled. Try to find other waves and amplify your wave. Okay, America, until next time, Pogokira out. Peace. Stop.